So far, so good.
Very nice. Thank you for being here this evening with all of us. I do appreciate your time
No worries.
greatly.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how are you, by the way? Everything is going smooth, I hope.
Oh yeah, been busy as of late. No complaints. Better busy than bored. And
Okay.
this community is always busy.
That's a good sign then.
Yeah.
By the way, what's going on in that photo of yours there on Skype?
That's the Skype photo. That is me in the Queen's Temple in Egypt talking to some Egyptian children who
Oh, nice.
whenever they see anyone from the United States or basically anyone that speaks English, they wanna practice their English on you. So
That must have been, that photo must have been around the time when you took the other photo of you in front of the pyramids there.
Yep. I went over there to just kind of check it out. I always said that I would go and check out the pyramids for myself and see what my take was on it. You know, what my first impressions. You know, who built them and what.
Right.
And they were impressive. They do not disappoint by any stretch, especially if you don't know anything about engineering at all. It's incredible. But then you see the city and you go, okay, whoever the descendants that live in Cairo now, they had nothing to do with whoever built this thing. It's just way too massive and way too intriguing. So.
Isn't there a Pizza Hut around the corner there?
Oh, well, Cairo backs right up to it. Cairo literally, you don't see that. They take the shots around it, so you don't see, but on one side, the city of Cairo literally backs right up next to the pyramids. And they do that deliberately, so the buses, they can, put the hotels right there, and
Right.
when you go from your hotel to the pyramids, sometimes, the bus ride is, 5 minutes long, so, and it's a huge tourist trap, but anyway, it was still fun. I do not regret the trip. It was a blast.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, let's get into your background here before we get into anything else. Walk us through everything. I understand you were some sort of professional gamer.
I was back in the day before professional gamers was even really a thing. I was always a gamer ever since I was young, and I won a worldwide computer pinball tournament in the mid '90s. And one of the publishers that did games, in fact, it was rare. Almost all the gaming publishers were in California at the time. There's a few in New York, but most of them are in Southern California, as they are still today. But there were a couple out in Boulder, Colorado. Go figure. And one of them brought me out there and hired me. And I'd never been to Boulder. I'd never been to Colorado, period. And it was a beautiful place, although I was from the Northwest, so I missed the water. And I played games there for this small publishing house, which was a blast. They were a Mac developer, primarily. They were a Macintosh house. And so I got to go to Mac World Boston and Mac World San Francisco and E3, and I was the only person in the company that played games. Everybody else did other things, marketing and design and all this other crap. And I actually, played games, and then I had a group of friends, a group of super nerds in Boulder that also played games, and that's what we did. And then after that company finally folded, I had a choice of either going to California and trying my luck out there or staying in Colorado, but it was still a great town for tech, and so I taught proprietary software for time and attendance companies for the better part. Between the gaming company and the software companies, I was there for 20 years. And taught that, and was just, it was fantastic, loved it. And during that entire time, I was into conspiracies and just about every conspiracy you can think of. I looked into it. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Charlie from the movie 2012, Woody Harrelson's character, super
understood.
eccentric character. But I was into conspiracies, and I thought I'd seen it all. And then in the summer of 2014, I just literally out of boredom, I figured, what haven't I looked at? It's like, lizard people again. No. Bilderberg. No.
Yes. By the way, Mark, can I just stop you there and quickly ask you, how about your upbringing? Did you have a religious upbringing, Mark?
Yeah, I did. I was raised born again Christian. I did have to do all the things that you can imagine. So I went to vacation Bible school during the summer, went to Camp Malibu up in Canada one year.
Oh, you did everything then.
Oh, yeah. Youth group. It wasn't just Sundays, let's put it that way. It was numerous days a week. And even the sports teams I played on, because I was one of those geeks that also did athletics, it was a very heavy Christian community in in Whidbey Island, where I'm from. And that carried over. But I fell away from that when I went to college, and like a lot of people, it's like, what, there's more to, because I grew up in a very rural island setting up in the northwest of the United States, near Canada. And that, I fell away from that when I went to college, and then when I got into conspiracies, even more, because then I was like, what can you believe?
They corrupted your mind in college?
Well, you're exposed to so many things. What's that line from Family Guy? It says, there's a time and a place for everything, and that place is college.
Understood, yes.
And I did. I hear
you.
In fact,
okay.
What I try to tell people, because I got into a lot of trouble in college, if you're not getting in trouble in college, you're not trying hard enough. And
it's hilarious.
It's true. It's true. So I did the conspiracy thing in Boulder while I was doing the software stuff, and then 2014 looked into. Would you want me to kind of get into how I kind of delved into the flat Earth thing, or are we just doing kind of background?
Just background, but yeah, we'll dive into that.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that's what I did. And so I stayed in Boulder up until the point where I got into this, and then this changed everything I thought of and everything I wanted to. Changed my goals, changed my outlook on life, and never looked back.
Your paradigm just changed completely after this, then.
Yeah, my priority list. In fact, if anyone that's really gotten into this, I've seen it time and time again. Since you're looking at the world completely differently, I mean, it's really like you're putting on a set of those goggles from the sunglasses from the movie They Live with Roddy Piper. That's right. Really what happens. Once you do that, you're just not caring about the same things. Now it's like, okay, now it's a whole new chapter, and that's where I've really been leading at this point.
Yeah, so it seems like the flat Earth theory is one of those theories that has just blown up. It's blown up in the last. Yeah. The flat Earth and the Mandela effect. Those two are the most popular.
Oh yeah, they are
topics in the past few years. Yes, and
it's been nutty. I'm a big statistics nut.
Mark? You basically have investigated this further than I have, obviously. Mm-hmm. What are the origins of the flat Earth theory? Obviously, I understand the original concept, but who exactly got this so popular over the internet? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, it was kind of a community effort. There was one guy that was talking about it. In fact, I'll tell you how I got into it. And
go ahead.
Back in summer 2014, I was just fishing around the internet, and there was a video recommended to me about how flight routes were screwed up in the southern hemisphere, and they didn't make sense. And it was done by this German guy. And I go, okay, that's interesting. I'm watching the video, and it's in German, but I get the diagrams and the little graphs and animations. And he was basically saying that when you're flying anywhere from anywhere in the south to anywhere in the south, like Africa to South America or South America to Australia, anywhere down there, he goes, the routes are all wrong. They don't make any sense. He goes, they're double and triple the distance they should be, and they're going way above the equator. In fact, some of them are going almost due north to refuel, but they're not picking up any people. They're just going up there and then coming back down. And he goes, and it wasn't that long of a video. And I go, okay, that's interesting. He goes, but here's what kind of hooked me a little bit. He goes, yes, it doesn't make sense unless the map is flat. And I go, okay, all right, I'll watch another one of these. And it wasn't a German one, so I'm looking for an American one. And I run to this Canadian, closest thing to it, named Matt Boylan, who tells a story of how he was a contract artist for NASA. They hired him out of Montreal, and they had him do kind of photorealistic planetscapes and stuff for little simulations, nothing weird. And he was at this high-level NASA party. He was like 25 at the time. And the power went out, and they were talking about this and that, and people were drinking a lot of wine. He goes, a lot of these people there were high-level NASA tech guys and high-level NASA mucky mucks. And one of the guys said, yeah, he heard a rumor that GPS doesn't work down in Antarctica. And then another guy said, oh, you should send some of your guys down there to confirm it, right? And some spooky guy comes out of nowhere, like a smoking man from X-Files type guy, and he goes, well, if you're sending you guys out that far, they're not coming back. And Matt fishing. He's like, Matt, wine in hand, goes, why wouldn't they be coming back? He goes, because GPS doesn't work down there. He goes, why doesn't GPS work down there? He goes, because it's too cold. And the guy goes, no, because it's flat. And then the guy proceeded to take a piece of chalk. I mean, it's a great movie opening. He draws out on this cement tile floor. Basically, he draws out the entire world, how it's laid out. And Matt said that when he was done, he was basically looking at the UN flag, because that's what the UN flag is. You want to know visually what it looks like, just look at the UN flag. Where the North Pole's the center of the map, the center of the flag, and the rest of the continents kind of splay outward, out in organic formation around the outside. And what was interesting about that story was that there's one thing that's actually missing on the UN flag, and that's Antarctica. Antarctica isn't there. It's like, okay, this is a good, I got a little tingly sensations going, okay, this is good. I like this. This is like movie of the week stuff, sci-fi, Twilight Zone-y type stuff, but there's no way, we all know that the Earth's a globe, should be able to shoot this sucker down, because I consider myself not necessarily a fast problem solver, but a very creative problem solver. I can take routes that other people wouldn't think of. And I thought I could knock it out in a weekend, and there I sat in front of the computer 6 months later, in fact, pushing 9 months later, in February of 2015. And I said, you know what? I can't do it. I can't prove it's a globe. I mean, not without a shadow of a doubt. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of things missing. There's a lot of things that should be there on the NASA side. And everyone's sitting, and people are listening to this going, this guy's insane. Everybody knows the space program is rock solid and it's all true. And the Americans would never lie about the space program and all this. So I'm going, okay, this is where, and this is something new I'll give you, which I haven't really, because I'm working on something for the convention that's coming up in the fall.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that later on.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Sold out just 2 days ago.
In Colorado, correct?
No. It's going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go figure.
Got the location.
No, there's meetups. What you're seeing on there, those are just regional meetups. There's like a meetup happening in Fort Collins every Tuesday right now. And I'm not even part of that. I'm just doing the promos. I told people, I go, look, if you want to do a promo, send me when it's going to be, and because the channel's getting bigger and bigger, and so I've done them for Florida, I'm doing them for Texas, Colorado, Washington State, Canada. I'm doing one for Niagara Falls. In fact, I think I just put that one up.
I'm just astonished how the popularity of the flat Earth theory has taken off.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. It resonates for some simple reasons, and this is the one I'll throw out at you. And that is, if you want to, again, I'm not going to be able to convince you or necessarily your listeners in one show, and I don't encourage anybody to try to convince somebody to do it over dinner. Or, don't tell family, size up who you're talking to, because it is extremely polarizing. And normally if it was a video call, I'd hold up a little foam globe in my hand and okay, how do you know you're on this globe, right? And eventually people will come back and say, well, we know because of the space program. Sooner or later, if you don't want to deal with the scientific stuff, equations and shadows and sticks and stuff, you'll say, well, the space program, NASA showed us. I go, yeah, but here's the problem. The first photo that NASA ever released of the Earth from space was in 1972. The Apollo 17 shot. We all have seen it. You probably don't know it by name, but you've seen it. It's very, very cloudy. The whole world's very cloudy. It shows the bottom part of Africa and all of Antarctica. And the next shot, by the way, wasn't even the second blue marble shot wasn't even taken until 43 years later. They milked that first shot literally for 43 years. It was one shot. That's all they showed anybody. My question is, before that shot, how did you know? And I know you can go, oh, NASA, you was still up there in the 60s. I'm going, fine. We'll go all the way back to the inception of NASA in 1958. How did you know before NASA was found? Because it's not like you just woke up one day in the late 50s, early 60s, and we knew the Earth was a globe. We've known for 20-something generations. We've known for 400 years and change before NASA that it was a globe. So how did you know? And eventually they're going to say the words that I wait for. And they'll say, well, science told us. I go, that's right. Science told you. They didn't show you. They told you. This isn't like everything else that you can prove in your life. Like water is wet, fire burns. You drop something, it falls to the floor. These are things you can test right now. When it came to the shape of the Earth for 400 and something years, that's something you just read in a book. In fact, not only did you read it in a book, but everybody read it in a book. Nobody could get up high enough to take a look at the Earth until late 1950s, early 1960s. So the question then turned to this. It's like, if for some reason, they got up there and they realized it wasn't exactly what they've been pushing to classrooms, since you're 6 years old for 20 generations. Would they tell anybody? And then there's this uncomfortable pause that you get on the other side. It's like, well, science wouldn't lie to us about anything like that. They'd come clean and go, would they? Would they? Because you got to remember, that goes against science. People protect their own. Institutions protect their own. Governments, corporations. I mean, things like Enron happened. Don't tell me that the big groups don't lie.
Yeah, see, that's where the conspiracy comes in about NASA.
Yeah.
And have they faked footage before?
Oh.
Have they lied to us before?
Yeah, because when I was doing this, and as I was building this in my head, because, again, I came from a gaming background, a software background, and so I was going, okay, if I had to build the world, which I didn't, it's like, we didn't build this world. Somebody else built it. Then, of course, that leads into a whole nother thing. So how do you keep it? How do you hide the world from the people that are living in it? How do you keep it a secret? Let's say, for example, let's say the powers that be, I don't care what group it is, Bilderberg's, Rothschilds, Trilateral Commission, take your pick, doesn't really matter. Illuminati, it doesn't really matter. One of these groups had the old maps, but until you have the technology to actually figure it out for yourself, what do you really know? So as I'm doing the research, I noticed that they seem to be looking for something from the early 1920s up until the mid-1950s with an American admiral, the fact that the youngest admiral in the history of the United States Navy, Admiral Byrd,
yes,
that he figured out during one of his last mission, 1955, 1956, the Operation Deep Freeze down in Antarctica, because he'd been down there for 30 years looking for something. And my supposition was that he found some sort of edge of, some outer marker of the world. And it wasn't like the coastline of Antarctica is the end of the world. No, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of miles inland, way further than the maps should allow, is some sort of barrier. And when he found this, the governments of the United States and the Soviet Union, because they were the only relevant surviving powers after World War II was over, they had to make a decision, and that is, okay, do we tell the public? How do we even broach this? How can we use this to our advantage, or do we let the public freak out potentially? And at that point, they made these sweeping things. NASA was formed in 1958, shortly after the United States and the Soviet Union started atomic weapons testing vertically, where they just fired atomic weapons straight up for 4 years, nonstop at what they were shooting at, what they were trying to break through. And then there was this fictitious space race, which had to happen. You basically, and during all these, all these things happened at a very short amount of time, which was the atomic weapon testing, NASA was formed, the space race, 1959, the Van Allen belts were announced by NASA employee Van Allen, scientist. And then in the same year that the Van Allen radiation belts were announced.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Just let me
go ahead.
Pause you for a second here. I'm sure you've seen that video of astronauts talking about the Van Allen belt and how we haven't been able to get past it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You saw it, right?
Many times. There's so many different references to it. And for those of you who don't know your basic astronomy, the Van Allen belts are supposedly these super thick, deadly belts of radiation announced in 1959. But what I think happened was they didn't know enough about radiation to make general statements like that. So they said, okay, super bad radiation belts never should go up there. And then, of course, Kennedy in 1960 says, we're going to do a moon program. We're going to go straight through this. And so Van Allen, they had to go back to Van Allen, the press, and say, hey, how are you guys getting past this? He goes, we're just going to go real, real fast. We're just going to floor it. That's our answer to him. Oh, okay. So, but with what shielding? Because radiation, we know this now, radiation, you can really only shield yourself, with the exception of water, but that takes a lot of water, is lead and gold. And gold is twice as heavy as lead, and both are very, very dense metals. And when you look at the specs on the entire Apollo program, they didn't use any shielding at all. It's nowhere there. There's aluminum, some plastic. That's basically it, because you had to make it as light as possible. You had to make it like an airplane, and because you don't want to put an anchor on the top of a rocket. And
of course not, yeah.
So here they went round trips, not just one way, round trips supposedly through the Van Allen belts, if you believe the story. Apollo 8 all the way through Apollo 17. I know 9 doesn't necessarily count because supposedly it never left Earth's orbit, but it doesn't matter because the whole thing was fake. Nobody died. Nobody got radiation poisoning. Nobody got cancer. Nothing bad ever happened to these guys. The capsules were put in the Smithsonian. They should be ticking like the Geiger counter should be just pegged scale high. None of this happened. And then when you look into it further, you guys want, and you're thinking, oh, that's just, you're speculating. And go, okay, fine. You want something fun to look at? Look at this. Go into Google, type in Orion Trial by Fire. That is the Mars program, current Mars program right now that's supposedly happening as a NASA video that they made back at the end of 2014, not that long ago, and where they say that the first capsules that they're going to use for the Orion project that they're going to test are going to be unmanned because they can't figure out how to solve the deadly Van Allen radiation belt problem. And you're watching this, and they're very specific. It's not like they say it in a glancing way. They use special doomsday music and weird little graphics. Like, they're showing that the Van Allen belts are really horrible. And and you say, okay, I mean, it's the trap question. So you have to ask a scientist. In fact, I called out Stanton Friedman on that one because he goes, well, they're just not that deadly. Yeah, all right. I'm going, really? Because NASA thinks they're deadly. So one of two things: either they're super deadly and you can't get past them, but if that's the case, then how did you get past them in the 60s, 50 years earlier? How did you get past them with all your astronauts and nobody even got sick? How did that happen? It's because they never went. They just glossed over it and hoped that nobody would ever notice. And as I'm looking into more and more of these things, because eventually, people have to lean on the space program. Just about everybody that starts out in the flat Earth thing, they try to debunk it. And as they're trying to debunk it, they lean on the space programs. Doesn't really matter which one it is. I don't care what country you're from. And you're looking for stuff that should absolutely prove it. I mean, look, we're into this thing. It's been 2 years since I made the clues, and this thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's insane. I mean, you have people like Bill Nye talking about it. You have
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, athletes, actors. It's
all sorts of people. Right.
The Vatican just brought it up 2 days ago.
I'm starting to wonder, Mark, if any of these people have seen your videos.
I think they have, but
chances are,
it's
up there because I saw that video of, I believe it was Neil Tyson and Joe Rogan, and I almost have the strange feeling they were referring to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because the only guy that was even mentioned in passing when it came to mainstream coverage was Eric Dubay, which is fine, but I know they watched it. I mean, even my mirrors, I mean, not just the ones on my channels, the heaviest hits for Flat Earth videos are the Flat Earth clues, but they're not mine. They're not on my channel. So because when I initially did it, because my YouTube channel didn't have any privileges because it was so new, that I could only make 15-minute videos, which is why the clues were, and so people were saying, oh, you should make a playlist. But little did I know, since I made all my videos free, Creative Commons license, I gave so many millions of hits away, that some people took the clues and mashed them all together in a simple editor and put it up. One is called They Are Hiding God with the Greatest Lie Ever, and the other one is called Under the Dome Full Documentary. And one's pushing 3 million and the other's 2.5 to 0.7 or something like that. Chances
are they definitely saw your videos.
Oh yeah, a lot of people have seen the videos.
They had to, or they know someone who did.
Well, I won't say that I'm the biggest flat earther that's out there, but what I will say is
proponent. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to the introductory level, oh yeah, it's my stuff, because people will look at some of the flat earth stuff and say, okay, let me start from the beginning. Where should I go? And then someone will say, oh yeah, I should look at Flat Earth Clues, because that's what I initially designed it to be. I boiled it down. When I was looking at Flat Earth, I initially, because there weren't that many people doing it back when I was doing it, I said, okay, it's an interesting topic, but it's coming in kind of like a fuzzy radio station. I mean, all I did was really metaphorically just walk up and turn the quarter turn to the right, and the station comes in, and then people are thinking, what's this music? What is that? What is happening? And then what it did was, here's the secondary thing that happened, was that, and I will take credit for this, was that because my videos were not exactly high production value, I mean, they were fine and all that, but it wasn't ultra polished. I was using a free video editor, my own voice, a simple script that I wrote, and nothing special. My visual effects that I've been working on now, I mean, that's just a learning curve. But it inspired other people to make videos. So not only did they like the Flat Earth, but they wanted to make their own stuff. And in fact, I'll steal Jaronism's thing, because he's fond of saying, he's like, once I saw that Mark Sargent make his videos, I'm going, well, if that guy can make flat Earth videos, I can certainly do stuff. And so there was a lot of people that came in and started making their own material, because it's like, well, why not? I mean, it doesn't take much to get the message. The message is simple. It's just a question of how you're gonna put it out there. And there's so many different people that have made the effort. It's been fantastic, and the community has just grown by leaps and bounds now. And I'll give you the numbers real quick, which is, when I was looking, if you typed in flat Earth into YouTube in the beginning of like 2015, you might have gotten like 50,000 active search results. You type it in now, and you got to search now because they've changed the algorithms a little bit. If you type it in now and sort by upload date, it's this morning it's like 17.3 million.
That's wild.
I know. And you're thinking, wow, what does that mean? I'm going, okay, well, Donald Trump comes in at 18, Lady Gaga comes in at 16. You just take your pick, any mainstream topic. Neil deGrasse Tyson comes in at 500,000. We crush him. And Bill Nye, we make mincemeat of him. I mean, the difference is, and I did a couple of videos, showing the different stats. The difference is that we did it with a grassroots movement with basically no marketing dollars whatsoever. And we did this with basically the fan base. And let me compare it to one thing real quick, which is if you're in YouTube, we've all heard of the infamous PewDiePie,
sure,
phenomenon. The guy's got 50 million subscribers, but it doesn't matter. He's got a marketing machine behind him. There's no accident there, and he'd be the first to say that. But when you search PewDiePie, he's only got 5.5 million relevant search results. It's the fan base, so he's got 5.5 million search results, which means there aren't that many people making videos about him. Whereas flat Earth they're just ravenous. People I myself, as of today, I don't even know my count for sure, but I'm pretty sure I've made over 600 flat Earth videos. And I'm not alone in that regards. There's a lot of people that have really cranked out. There's 24/7 channels.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's massive.
Chances are, if you even look into YouTube, you'll probably find someone having a debate during one of the live channels. Oh yeah,
the debates have gotten really, where even a few months ago, there's that phenomena has really taken off recently, where even 3-4 months ago.
Bringing up the flat Earth theory is enough to trigger many people into an argument.
Yeah, it's because of that polarization, and you're wondering, again, people are listening to this now and they're probably wondering why they're upset. And let me relate a story to you. Before I even clicked on my first flat Earth video, when I was even moving my mouse over to it, and this is how I caught myself, I actually got physically flushed, physically embarrassed to click on the video, and I was alone in my apartment. I'm going, okay, why am I embarrassed? I've clicked on weirder stuff than this on the internet. We all have. So why am I embarrassed to click on a flat Earth video? And then I as I got into it, I understood. It's because you've seen the globe for so long. It is classic conditioning. When you see a globe in your classroom, since you're in first grade or kindergarten or wherever you're taught, that globe just sits there, and the globe is in every classroom when you're going through school. You can't avoid it. And when you get home, you may not have a globe in your house, but you're going to see globe images on television all the time.
So you believe in mind control then?
Oh, are you kidding? I'll give you a quick example. You'll love this one.
Go ahead.
There was you want classic mind control? You don't think it can happen? It was late 80s, it was early 90s.
Oh, Mark, let me just tell you, I just did a show not so long ago about mind control and people being completely brainwashed, and I said a percentage of 65 to at least 75% of people, if not even more, are just completely brainwashed without any realization.
And it does not take much to do it. I'll tell you how little it takes.
Go ahead.
There was a show back in the late 80s, early 90s called G.I. Joe. It was an animated cartoon series. We probably all know of it. And what they did was, this was back when Reagan took off the advertising restriction. I don't know if they figured it out on their own. It was just an accident. But what they did was, I think to save money, was they used the same animators that they used the cartoon show to make their commercials. Then they showed those commercials during ran the show, and then they ran back-to-back shows. So you had 2 hours of G.I. Joe, right? But you also had G.I. Joe commercials running in the gaps. So what happened was, and they called it, I mean, of course, the lawyers have scrubbed most of it now, but it's still out there. It's part of the Child, not the Protection Act, but there's something else that has to do with media. And I got to save it. I've got it somewhere lying around, which is what happened was with the 12 to 13-year-olds, they couldn't differentiate when the show ended and the commercial began. So it basically became just 1 2-hour commercial. And it's not like they were forced to watch it. They wanted to watch it. And so they were engaged. And what happened was it was called the was it called the annoyance factor or the I can't remember the name of it. But what happened was when they went to the stores with their mothers, the mother's like, no, put that back. No, put that back. We all have done that, right? When the kid went for the G.I. Joe toy and the mother said, put it back, the kid resisted. It violently in some cases. Like, no, I'm buying the G.I. Joe. You're buying the G.I. Joe toy. And this happened, I mean, it swept the nation very, very quickly to where Congress had to step in and they had to pass a whole new television set of laws just to cover this because they were basically brainwashing the kids into buying the product. And again, that's how it did. In fact, when they were doing studies, they figured out that it takes as little as 45 minutes if the person is engaged in whatever product it is. So don't tell me that people can't be brainwashed without them being knowing. It happens all the time.
Through social media, doubt.
Oh yeah. Well, most people, which is why I don't even turn on the cell phone I'm looking at over here. I bought my very first smartphone 2 years ago.
Oh wow, very recent then.
Very recent because I realized when I was in a college town up in Boulder, Colorado, and I started to see when I was driving through campus that none of the kids were looking up. They were all looking down. They were just walking around with their phones and they were glued to them. I was going, oh boy, this is not good. And I remember sitting in a movie theater where all the kids, there was like a group of 9 kids in front of me, and they were all on their smartphones, and none of them, people say, well, it's what, so what? I'm going, here's the thing. They were all texting each other, but literally they were sitting right next. I was watching kids that had, their elbows were touching each other, and they weren't talking. They were just texting. And I was going, okay, what? We've taken a step back here.
I wonder what all of this is doing to us, this sensory perception overload.
Yeah.
We're addicted to it.
It's not, well, luckily, I mean, I'm
guilty of it too, though, Mark. I'm not on some moral cloud here.
Well, I mean, everybody falls victim to it to a point, but I deliberately set out in the beginning because when I was doing the support thing, when I was supporting these software companies, I was doing a lot of phone work. And so phone communication was important to me. Voice, there's a lot of, like what we're doing now. I mean, there's voice inflection, there's tone, there's pace. Things like that are completely lost when it comes to text. And so I decided, I'm going, you know what? To this day, and I'm not lying when I say this, I have never sent a text. Not one. I've received them, but I have never replied back.
Never sent one. Oh, I see.
Never sent a text because in fact, I will pick up the phone. If somebody texts me something important, I will pick up the phone and I will call them if I think it's important. I may email them if I know their email address, but I've told people, I'll go and look, if you text me and you want me to respond, it's not going to happen. I don't care if you're on fire. It will not happen. I go, you call me. This is something, we've had phones for the better part of 100 years, and then all of a sudden we just gave them up. That's it. Nobody talks on phones anymore. Kills me.
You're right about that. Yes, more people are actually texting than they are calling each other up.
Oh yeah, data plans. I didn't even know. I mean, granted, I was late to the game when that was. I'm watching this and oh, there's your moneymaker.
There,
right,
yes.
Right there. I mean, remember the days
bondage they have over us.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. So, by the way, are you still playing video games?
Oh yeah, I'm a lifer when it comes.
You're still
to that.
Deep into it?
Not as deep. I mean, when I was doing the game stuff over in Colorado, I was playing at work and I was playing on the weekends.
Were you playing Unreal Tournament by any chance?
No. I was doing. Again, I remember when I started. This was like the infancy. This was back before.
Okay, you're way back. You're deeper.
I'm way back. I'm Doom 2. I'm Quake 1. This is like before, for your kids out there, before World of Warcraft, there was Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2, and then the original Warcraft 1. And
those two, yes.
The games that I really got into back in the day were Diablo Diablo 2. I didn't even play Diablo 3 because they didn't have paladins right away. One of my favorites is Fallout 3. But I'm also one of those gamers that loves... everyone's got their guilty pleasures, kind of like movies that you don't admit that you watch to other people. I have games that I play that I generally don't admit, but I'll admit to you, which my two big ones are Bejeweled, a notorious chick game, or middle-aged housewife game, and Plants vs. Zombies, which I thought, both made by PopCap, a small publisher out of Seattle, and I just loved them.
That's interesting that you would pick those games out of all the variations of video games we have today, that you've gone back to sort of an old school route, but it's still...
Well, I'm old enough. I like them.
New elements in those games that you're playing, however.
But at the same time, I won't give up my World of Warcraft account. I mean, I've had it for, since vanilla, so 13 years, which again is amazing. I remember, video game years are worse than like dog or cat years. 6 months in a game is forgotten forever. And World of Warcraft is still doing its thing 13 years later. It's incredible.
That's wild, yes. And speaking of which, that reminds me of, like you were talking earlier about the popularity of some YouTubers, some content, yes.
Like PewDiePie.
Right. I was just thinking about how popular Twitch is and those video game channels are. It's remarkable. Again, there's
a lot. You want to see some scary stuff, and this goes back to my video game snobbery, which is when I was there when the Minecraft thing was just a blip, just nothing. Minecraft was are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just completely surprised still. It's either Minecraft or
Grand Theft Auto and all the versions of that. But you know why I won't play Grand Theft Auto, which is a beautiful game. It's gorgeous because it's crime-based.
It's too violent for you?
Well, it's not violent. It's illegal. You're playing criminals.
It's morally wrong, you say?
It's a moral issue. And that part bugged me. And I had friends that kind of looked at me funny. I was going, come on. I mean, I stopped playing. There was I'll give you a different version. It wasn't just a fluke. There was a game called Carmageddon back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And one of the sequels, I think it was Carmageddon 3. One of the levels was you had to destroy the police station. The actual modernized academy, the police academy. And it was gorgeous. The inside of the academy, I'm going, look, it's a wasteland out there. And you're killing cops because why? I go, they're trying to keep order. And in fact, this is the only place, it was a utopia compared to what was outside of it. And so I literally put down the controller. I said, yep, I'm not playing that game anymore.
You were done with it.
Yeah, I was done with it.
Did you ever hear the video game called Postal?
I'd heard of it, but I'd never played it.
It's even worse.
Lord. But Grand Theft Auto was kind of like in the same veins, where you get out of your car and beat up people on the street.
It's pretty brutal indeed, and that makes me ask this question: do you watch rated R movies or do you not watch rated R movies for the same difference as you don't play?
No, that's different because when it comes to that's different because at least it's playing something and watching something is a little different. I can't endorse a game that actually encourages people. That's the difference. Encourages people to commit crime. Whereas the rated R movies and stuff, that's more realistic. There's one of my biggest pet peeves is bad writing or sloppy writing or plot holes. And the networks, and I'll give you an example here. I stopped watching network television for that very reason, because network television were handicapped that there was only so much they could show. And what I meant was when Showtime and HBO and Starz and Cinemax started doing their own television series, like 6 Feet Under and Dexter and good Lord, there's so many out there that I could list off. Game of Thrones, for example, that they didn't have to follow the rules. Of course, you're paying for it. It's like you're paying to see the story as gritty as possible. So I enjoyed that aspect of it because it was realistic. It didn't hold back. There's something, and I know there's some people say, well, PG and G ratings and AOL and Christian values. Yeah, that's fine and good. I'm not, but don't get me wrong. If the story endorsed a certain thing, I wouldn't necessarily promote it.
Yeah,
But
and my biggest pet peeve though for modern day films now is that they all use the same kind of formula, Mark.
Well, yeah.
You know, I know the formula sells. I know all of that, but
no, you're absolutely right.
Mark, we have so many great minds now. You kind of would expect some kind of original content to be produced by 2017 now, but it seems like all we do now is go back in time to the old song and dance. That gets a little tiring, don't you think, Mark?
You're absolutely right. In fact, I did a rant some time ago, which was called. In fact, I did a Strange World episode on it called "The Best Year in Movies," which was 1999, and I put a challenge out to anybody that's out there. I go, look, you want to know why the world is grinding. You know, we're coming to some inevitable conclusion. Part of it is because the novelty factor, and I'm going to quote Terrence McKenna here. I don't think, because he said when he was, Terrence McKenna, the guy that went out to the jungle, said that, he thought the world was going to end because he did a thing called the Time Wave Zero, and he was saying that the novelty factor just dropped into the floor at 2012, and he thought the world was going to end. I disagree. I don't think the world was going to end. I just thought it was literal, meaning novelty was basically going to run out. And you think I'm kidding? Look at the movies. Go ahead and look up, films of 1999 and run through the list. How many amazing films were done in 1999, and then it slowly started to slip towards 2003, and by the time you got to 2012, we were out of original things. And you look up movies of 2016, you look up the movies of 2017, they're all remakes. In fact, some of them are remakes of remakes or reboots of reboots, to where this year, I can't find King Kong. Hey, great, we've seen that. Oh, Vin Diesel's in another movie. John Wick's got another sequel, another
Fast and Furious film.
Oh my God, the Fast and Furious. How many of those can we make? And don't get me wrong, I used to own a comic book shop back in the day. Superhero movies, I love them, but we're rebooting Spider-Man now. Again.
It's played out, Mark. I can't do it anymore. Yeah, superhero movies, I always throw them under the bus here all the time. It's just the same goddamn thing. Oh, excuse me there.
No, it is. You're absolutely right.
Thing all the time.
There's some good special effects, but yeah, the formula, here's where we've run into a problem. I have basically stated that media has jumped the shark. If you guys don't know what Jump the Shark is, look it up. It's a Happy Days reference. That was when Happy Days was running out of ideas, like any show runs out of ideas. They basically had Fonzie, the Fonz, Henry Winkler, for no apparent reason, jump a shark tank outside of Al's Diner. There was no...
You mentioned that, by the way.
And now that has become a Hollywood term, which is when a show jumps the shark, when they're tapped out of ideas. And we've done that. Media has tapped out. We've run out of television shows.
We drained it.
The creative pool has been drained, and which is also part of the reason why I think the flat Earth thing is really taking off underneath the surface, because it's compared to everything else, reality shows about beards or swamp chasers or crocodile people or what else it is. This is really novel compared to these things, and it combines a lot of stuff. It combines an original thought, old but new.
Yes,
and it's kind of secret and kind of conspiracy, but it's way the hell out there, and it's been amazing. So yeah, the formula, the Hollywood formula has been done. We all know them. You and I don't know how old you are, but you can walk into a movie now, and if you've watched even a moderate amount of movies, you can kind of figure out the plot pretty quickly, because they just telegraph it from the game. It's like, it's a cop buddy picture.
I know within the first 15 to 20 minutes exactly how the film's going to play out.
Yep. Which is why the shows nowadays, just to keep it somewhat interesting, will kill off characters. That's the thing that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. Yep, and that is just to find a major character. You're invested in that person for 3 years. Too bad. They're dying right now.
Off with his head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, Game of Thrones has become a model of that.
My goodness. I kind of had to drop out from Game of Thrones after, I don't know, I think, what was it, the 4th or 5th season? I just kind of lost interest.
Well, they're out. They're almost done now. Again, Game of Thrones is running to the end. Eventually they have to get to their final war, and I haven't read any of the books or anything, so I don't know.
How deep are they now? I don't even know what season.
7? Is it 7?
Is it 7?
I have to look at it. It's either 7 or 8. but they have to end with. I mean, that's it. I mean,
don't get me wrong.
Princess.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's a good series. It's just it's already met its time.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing when I was going through. If you want to have some fun, I was going through because you can look this all. Everything's of course coded on the internet. You can type in like Starz television series or HBO television series, and I'm going through. I'm just going, holy smokes, that seems like ages ago, and I've watched pretty much most of them. And so now I've been looking for new series. I mean, luckily the Flat Earth thing has taken up most of my time, but when I have downtime, I'm scrambling to find anything that's new-ish, that feels new, that's not a sequel. I mean,
yeah, people want original content. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, for goodness sake, we actually made 3 more Star Wars movies. The third one's going to come out here. The end of this year?
Yes.
Why would you? Because there was money involved, and because why not?
I have no interest in it in that series anymore.
Yeah, well, they lost money after the whole Ewok thingy.
Right. So
that and the Jar Jar.
Let's go back into what you were mentioning earlier about Antarctica. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's been lots of activity out there, and you did mention Admiral Byrd earlier, who was actually one of the first people I've ever heard talk about the hollow Earth theory and how there's I believe he had said something about a specific race of ETs perhaps living down deep into the core there in his private journal, I believe it was.
The secret journal, and again, I don't know if I can vet it or not, but that's how a lot of people, everyone knows, if you're into conspiracies, that Admiral Byrd is tied to the hollow Earth theory. We all know it. We all know this. But when I started looking into the flat Earth theory, that's where the real story is, and that is he goes to the North Pole in 1926, supposedly, a journey to the center of the Earth type thing, and then he turns around and he, for whatever reason, again, I knew, they send him down to the Antarctic Circle from 1928 up until the 1950s, and he was like the lead guy, and he flew his own planes, and took him 30 years before he finally found it, to the point where, and again, part of the reason, one of the big turning points for me was seeing the Admiral Byrd footage on the CBS affiliate for the television show Longines Chronoscope, which is spelled Longines. It's a watch company. I think it's French. And where he goes on national television, it's a great copy too. I mean, it's black and white, but it's excellent resolution, where he goes on and says that, this is 1954, keep in mind,
right. Mm-hmm.
that the Antarctic is just ripe for resource investment that's made out of money. And all these countries are down there, New Zealand and Argentina and Great Britain and the Soviet Union, and everyone is down there. There's like 8 or 9 countries at the time. And they were all going to make money. And what I think happened was, again, this is Murphy's Law,
right,
is that he was looking for 30 years, and even the Illuminati or the powers that be, or whoever you want to call it, whatever you want to call them.
The Germans were out there too, by the way.
Well, that was also an interesting wrinkle.
So much to talk about here, yes.
Yeah, the Germans were down there, and they were so everyone was exploring Antarctica until World War II broke out. And then only one country was down in Antarctica during World War II, and that was Germany. Because the whole Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark story, where the Germans were looking for mystical objects to win the war, that was absolutely true. They were under the belief, and why wouldn't you? If you're trying to take
win, if you want to win, you want to do everything in your power to.
If you're trying to take over the world, which is what they were doing, this wasn't a regional skirmish. This was Nazi Germany saying, you know what, we're going for the whole ball of wax. And they figured, okay, anything that sounds magical, any rumors of any magical things or weird things or technology things, we're going to go for. And they were down there in Antarctica, and we know this because then when the war was over, for whatever reason, even though they don't talk about it in the papers, they do mention there was a giant expedition, not a scientific, a full-blown carrier group with support ships and thousands of men,
right,
led by Admiral Byrd in 1946, after the Japanese had surrendered in 1945, called Operation High Jump. Interesting name. And they go down there, and once they got down there, it was pretty much a media blackout. It's just just nothing but rumor after they got down there. Now, some people say they met the Nazis and finished them off. Some people say the Nazis ran deeper into the snow. Some people said they got asylum from from a higher technology race. And I tend to go with the latter, because that kind of sounds like a high school, junior high dance thing. It's like, because if you ask for asylum, it's like, okay, you can come with us, but you're never coming back in here.
Right.
That's it. Once you're out, you're out. And the reason why I believe that is because only 8 years later, when Admiral Byrd was on television, all these countries were doing work down there, and he didn't seem to have a care in the world. And he's a military commander. He could have cared less about anything. It's like a mountain range made out of coal and uranium and oil, and he's saying this on television. We're going to be down there for the next 100 years, just carving that place up. And in fact, he was worried that there would be disputes over resource. He's saying this. And then, of course, Murphy's Law kicks in, which is the powers that be thought that whatever was that the maps were wrong. It's like, well, you know what? Screwed it up. Yeah, let's just make money. And then, of course, Admiral Byrd has to report back and say, there's something really weird down there. And then everything changed. The Antarctic Treaty was then immediately started working on it. And in fact, it wasn't even completed until Admiral Byrd died, mysteriously in 1957. Heart attack in his own home. Sounds pretty pedestrian.
It sounds kind of unusual.
Yeah, it does. Because
as you know now, Mark, I'm quite aware you probably are, and you're very informed in what's going on in the world today. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
You've seen these mysterious deaths now.
Oh yeah.
So
you can kill people just about any way you want.
It makes you really think back in time, doesn't it?
Yeah. You can all the stuff that used to happen that we attributed to just this happens and that happens. No, assassinations. We've come a long way.
It's not a conspiracy after all, is it?
No, it's not a conspiracy.
I don't know.
You may be paranoid, but that doesn't mean there's not someone after you.
Exactly. You just never know.
No, you never do. So the Antarctic Treaty was put in place in 1959, and what it says, again, for those people out there, it's like, no, I can book a trip to Antarctica right now. It's like, oh yeah, you can't. If you're in the United States, about $10,000, $12,000. You can go to the Antarctic Peninsula, have your picture taken with some penguins, riding around in a raft, and wear a super thick orange survival suit, because it's horrible down there. And you can do that, but that's about it. That's about all you can do. Corporations, this is where it gets weird.
It gets weird, yeah.
After Admiral Byrd said that the place, he was worried the corporations are going to be fighting over this for the next 100 years, all the corporations in the world unilaterally agreed to the governments voluntarily signed a piece of paper saying that no corporation will ever be down there ever. And this is the only treaty no treaty has lasted as long. No treaty has been ever as ironclad. And here's where it bugged me. Here's where it got strange. Is that it wasn't just that the corporations weren't allowed to go down there. Corporations weren't even allowed to talk about going down there. And you say, what does that mean? Well, say you're the head of Exxon, oil, right? I've got unlimited funds. I can do anything I want. I can start fracking in your backyard tomorrow. Try to stop that sort of power. These guys are getting into national parks. That's how much power these guys have. And yet, my company isn't even allowed to debate going down to Antarctica. I mean, why don't I just call my buddy at the New York Times and run a full-page ad every month saying how great it would be for Mark's company to do oil research down, and how great for America for Mark's company to do oil research down in Antarctica. I'm not even allowed to do that. And not only am I not allowed to, no other country is allowed to do it. Why isn't China fighting us for the oil rights in Antarctica? Why isn't the Soviet Union or Great Britain or Australia? Nobody talks about it. It's one of those things that is one of those super, super, super high level secrets, so that if an oil exec even thinks about doing it, his phone line and emails are probably tapped, and somebody then gives them a call and says, you know what, whatever language you're talking in, and says it's national security. You're not allowed to go down there. Never talk about it again. And then that buys you time until the next CEO comes along, and then maybe they pass on the information, maybe they don't. But it goes against the reason why that really raised some flags for me was, like with a lot of people, it goes against everything that we are, for good or bad, about our civilization. Look, our civilization is based on greed and power and money. That's all the movies. What was that line from Vanilla Sky? 9 out of every 10 problems in the world are about money.
Money, yeah.
And this is bigger than than that. This is the only one of only two things that I know of that's bigger than money. One would be, of course, like, you know, what happens after you die, which is covered in the movie The Discovery recently with Robert Redford. But what they basically were saying was, we can't take the chance of an oil company going down there and a helicopter going off course, or a plane going off course, or somebody getting lost and looking at something they shouldn't be. Because once that happens, then we're going to have to clean it up and take, you know, what that means is, like, well, you're going to take care of whoever it is. That person disappears. You can't let that happen. It's like the money, basically what they said was, the money isn't worth it. The revenue isn't worth it. Let's just seal the sucker off forever. It's not even up for debate. The treaty isn't even up for review until 2041.
That's true. And in your opinion, what exactly is out there, Mark, and why were politicians and the world leaders out there for?
Oh, you mean just recently?
Yeah, just recently.
Well, it's for me, I think there's several things. One, I think it's some sort of gateway to the outside world. Meaning, I think we're living in a giant snow globe, basically. A Truman Show, a giant Hollywood soundstage, a terrarium, a planetarium, whatever you want to name it, whatever it is. And the outer edge, like the edge of the Truman Show, is out there somewhere. And that's what they initially found. And for some reason, it's become much, much more significant because, again, there's the weirdest things have been happening just in the last 12 months. It started off, and I made a video about it. And again, this sounds like a joke when I say this, because it sounds like a bar joke, like Catholic priest and a rabbi walking into a bar. Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the Pope. Seriously. And he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I used to have this painting hang above my crib. It's by Hieronymus Bosch, and it's when we all thought the earth was flat."
Yes.
And to me, it represents the promise of future and, oh boy, harmony or something like that. Something very positive. It's like, look, Leonardo only had 15 minutes with the Pope to talk about climate. And that's what he talked. Why is he talking? And he gave them a book with this painting in it. Then that Pope, the Pope, he travels to Cuba for the first time to meet with a Russian Orthodox Pope ish guy. I don't know much about the Catholic Church hierarchy. For the first time, these popes have met in 1,000 years. Could not make that up. And we don't know what they talked about. But then that Orthodox Russian guy, he goes down to Antarctica and takes pictures on the beach publicly with penguins. Why is he down there? Well, we don't know, because whatever happened during his private time, we don't know. John Kerry, Secretary of State at the time for Obama,
right?
He's down there. He's down there on election night when Hillary and Trump are going head to head. He's Hillary's guy, right? Why is he down in Antarctica during election
he's out
night?
there.
And I can't remember. I think it was Buzz Aldrin? Yeah, Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah, he was
Buzz
there.
Aldrin's down there for one of the Apollo astronauts, one of the only 7 remaining Apollo astronauts. He's down there. Something happens to him health-wise.
At his age, what on earth was he doing out there?
Yeah, no play on words. Yeah, absolutely. We have no idea what was happening down there. There was rumors of a Russian naval fleet that was transporting some artifact down to Antarctica. It was very tight security. All these things happened in 2016. We're staring at this going, holy smokes. Meanwhile, back at home, back in the United States, you got a celebrity, one of the world's best athletes, Kyrie Irving for the world champion Cavaliers, who's also in the finals again this year, just happening now. They just finished game 1 last night. He comes out during a podcast just before the All-Star game and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, the Earth's flat. It's totally flat." I mean, you can tell, and that made sense to me because basketball players and baseball players have a lot more road games than football players, so they're watching a lot of YouTube, and he was totally into it. He was quoting some of my stuff, absolutely, but he wasn't using my name. And it's like, one of these days, somebody's going to bring my name up.
Someone's going to drop it. Yeah,
somebody's going to drop it. Then I'm going to be in trouble. Hopefully, it's not Trump.
Oh my!
I know, because you never know.
I mean, I'm telling you, these people, they had to have seen your videos again, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Joe Rogan and Bill Nye. It almost seems like they are directing their messages directly to you, Mark.
Well, nobody's calling me out, which is interesting because I can hear my quotes, I can hear the info, and I can hear how things are laid out. I'm going, okay, so you watched it, I get it, but they're not calling me. I'm not in the cover of Time magazine.
They're not bringing attention to you. That's what they're doing.
No.
They're being
Who knows?
smart
Maybe
about it. They don't want to mention your name.
Maybe they don't want. Again, one of my fear. Well, it's not even a fear. It's kind of a weird, infamous thing where it's like, will I be on the cover of Time? It's like the most dangerous man. Will I be the villain if this thing gets any bigger? It's very possible. It's like a bad picture of me grimacing. And mother's going, oh God, he looks so evil. Maybe he's tied to ISIS. We don't know.
Oh no.
No. I mean, but that's just it. We haven't been. You could turn Flat Earth and very easily. You could have blown up something and tied it to us, but they haven't. This thing is running without resistance in so many different ways, and it's fascinating to watch. Like, for example, if you type in other conspiracies into YouTube, recommended for you on the side, there will be eventually Flat Earth videos. I've seen people make videos asking the YouTube community how they stop Flat Earth videos from being recommended. I've had tons of people that have told me they were watching something on, I don't know, JFK, and then the autoplay feature, that YouTube autoplay, where it just rolls to the next video. All of a sudden, they're vacuuming or doing dishes. It's like, all of a sudden, I start hearing Flat Earth stuff in the background. It's like, what? And you're going, what? How is this even happening? If you wanted to shut that down, I mean, that's some simple coding. You just say, if you see any videos with the titles of Flat Earth and all other variations, you don't ever recommend them.
True.
You go into any search engine. I don't care what it is, Firefox or Chrome or Google or what. I don't care what it is. You type in "the Earth is," see what shows up at the top of the list. It's flat. Or "is the." I mean, those are two very small words, right? And it'll show up, "is the Earth flat?" And it's because that's just a side effect of the community, because the community is so enthusiastic about finding the latest news. They're constantly typing into the search engines, "flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth," refresh. And I mean, there's corporations out there that would love to see their stuff at the top of any search recommendation.
Oh, of course.
Like the best soda is fill in your name here.
They want to throw in those ads.
Exactly. They pay big money to Google AdWords and big money to internet marketing firms. We did that without anything. That's just a side effect.
I know that's the wild part, and that's the astonishing part I'm talking about. If it, like I was mentioning earlier, if it isn't the Mandela effect, it's Minecraft and the Flat Earth theory.
Minecraft. This is it's the bane of my video existence. I appreciate that people are using it to create brand new worlds, but it is like, for me, growing up in a gaming world, it's like going in a time travel machine.
That's what I say. Yeah.
I go, look, you're building this. It's like, in fact, I'm really amazed that Lego didn't sue them, because it's like you're building a world out of Legos, but you're looking really close up at. I mean, it's an 8-bit Lego graphic editor. That's all it is. And kids think it's the greatest thing since bubblegum.
Mark, I have to ask you, has anyone made a Flat Earth rendition on Minecraft yet?
No, they didn't have to. You know why? Because, and I can say this from an absolute authority standpoint, all 99% of video games that are out there are flat. Perfectly flat.
That's true. You're right.
The reason is because, and I'm not picking on software developers, and I'm not picking on God, because, well, you're calling God lazy. I'm going, no, I'm not. I'm saying that God is very, very efficient. You don't build a curved Earth into video games because it's a lot harder and nobody's going to notice anyway. Even if you build a curved Earth, it's like, what are you getting out of it? You're just making the physics engine way more difficult. You're making the graphics engine way more difficult. And it's what's amazed me. In fact, I'll share a story I haven't shared with anybody else.
Nice.
In Warcraft, the latest version, I actually went into a room where they had a spinning globe, an actual Warcraft map globe, and it was spinning. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, first off, I've seen the Warcraft map for over a decade, and I know full well it's absolutely perfectly flat. But since they put it on a globe, people now think, there's kids, I guarantee you, they're looking at, oh yeah, the Warcraft world is curved. It's like, no, just because the globe is curved doesn't mean it's curved. It just means that they're showing you, that's the projection they're showing you. It's absolutely perfectly flat. And you can test this at any altitude, anywhere go out there. It's pixel perfect flat.
Yes, and I've seen plenty of your videos, Mark, showing the horizon being flat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the horizon is, And Neil deGrasse Tyson tried to address this, but it's interesting because, again, it's your programming. I have had people say they can see flatness from planes, which is fine. You want to say that, that's fine, but I'll address that in a second. I've seen people say they can see it from mountains or the curvature, and they can see the curvature from the water, from the beach. People swear to me they can see the curvature from all three of these things. I'm going, fine. Take a picture of it, put it on your laptop, hold a straight edge to it. I don't care if it's a piece of paper or a book, whatever. Use a straight edge. If you still see the curvature, you email it to me. I will quit Flat Earth now. I'll quit it. I'll close up shop. And that's it. And it's been 18 months since I put out that challenge. And no, in fact, I got one email from a pilot, and that wasn't even directly to me. It was through secondhand through his friend. And the clouds were curved, but once you turned up the contrast, you saw the real horizon, and it was perfectly flat. But the thing is, here's the difference. Sometimes pilots, but mostly people on the ground and everybody else, you want to see the curve. That's the difference. It's not that you see the curve. And that's very George Orwell.
I want to see the curve too.
You think you see four lights or five lights or whatever it is, but you only see, you want to see the curve. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with the globe. I used to collect. You're talking about somebody that did not come to this easy. I collected antique globes as a hobby back in the early 2000s. That was one of everything from little bookends to old school globes. I loved them. I thought they were fantastic. I thought they were great icons. For me to give that up was a major paradigm shift. And yet here I am in 2017, and we are gonna, I've done socials, I put out 600 videos, I did a book, I did apps, and I'm gonna do a conference. In fact, it might even be multiple conferences before it's over. So it's amazing.
It really is amazing. And tell us about these conferences quickly here.
The big one that's coming up, and it's sold out right now. I do not know if they're going to release new tickets. You can always be put on the waiting list, and I know those tickets are transferable, so you can. It's the 2017 Flat Earth International Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can go to the website, which is fe2017.com. I am not the one that put it on. It's done by separate YouTube channels. And it's going to be November 9th and 10th of this year in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's going to be, and it should be great. I mean, again, it's sold out. At least the first wave of it sold out. And there's going to be a lot of speakers there. You can check out the promos are all over YouTube. Just about most of the major YouTube channels, well, at least the major channels in 2016 are going to be there, and some of the ones that are up and comers in 2017 are going to be there. And I'm doing a keynote speech after lunch on the first day, and then I'm doing the Flat Earth Video Awards show with Patricia Steer, the last event on the second day, and it should be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I mean, you don't know until you get into a room full of people like-minded, shared beliefs after they've been persecuted, by friends and family members. The energy is amazing, and I've been in just small groups of as little as 20.
I'm sorry to cut you off there, Mark.
No, go ahead.
Now I'm curious. What do your parents or family, your family members and your peers, what do they have to say about your belief in the flat earth theory? Well,
I'm lucky in some regards because I never got married and never had kids. So I didn't have to deal with the grief that quite a few spouses are having out there.
Sure.
Because I've heard a lot of people that have said, oh yeah, my wife doesn't believe or my husband doesn't believe, and I get emails from that all the time.
Sometimes those opinions, depending on who your wife may be, it's probably better left unsaid.
Yeah. But the thing is, the enthusiasm level, here's one of the big drawbacks of flat earth, and I'm not talking about the theory, I'm just talking about what it does to you psychologically, is you get so excited when it finally hits you, when you get that aha moment that you need to vent it somewhere. You don't know what to do with it. And so people will go out and, they'll bring it up at, I don't know how many people have told me, it's, oh yeah, I went to Thanksgiving or a family dinner or a family reunion or whatever it is, and they just let it fly.
Ooh,
and they forget
Nice.
how long it took them to get there. I'm going, dude, and I try to explain. I go, how long did it take you to turn to flat earth? They go, 4 days. And I go, how long did you have with these people? They go, 90 minutes. I go, do you really think you were going to convince anybody in 90 minutes? I go, all you can do is put the idea out there. You got to let them, and people get frustrated.
Got to plant the seed, right?
Yeah. Why can't I convince them in 60 minutes? Are you kidding?
That's not going to work.
You can't do it. So anyway, so when it comes to my family, my mom's on board, but mothers generally support their sons. I mean, I could be a serial killer. She'd probably support me.
She'd probably still love you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are you eating people again? Don't stay up too late. My sister doesn't believe. My father, I didn't really talk to that much. My brother-in-law, he thinks I'm insane, but he's like a plaid man's man type of guy. Some of my cousins believe, some of my cousins don't believe. So it's pretty split, which is what I more or less expect.
I understand, yes.
But it's not bad, because I was kind of lucky because I grew up kind of eccentric. So people, when I went down this road, I mean, yeah, it's even for your most eccentric people, this is way out there. But people weren't completely shocked. It's like they said, Mark, oh yeah, not a total surprise. Okay.
My opinion, Mark, on the flat earth theory, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sold. But then again, Mark, I'm not 100% sold on anything. I don't like to be married to any one concept.
You don't have to be sold on it.
Yes, but there's some things there that I could see some interesting aspects about this, and I just think it's good to keep an open mind.
What it does do, let me throw this in.
Because by the way, Mark, I have to give you my biasness. It's because of NASA. I just feel like they have lied about certain things in the past.
Yeah, but at the same time, NASA is they might as well be the poster boy for science. I mean, they wear white uniforms.
Sure.
They smile for the camera. They don't carry guns. And that whenever they do a technology section, there's at least one NASA story in every technology section of every web thing that's out there. What we try to do is I try to treat the flat Earth like a court case, which is, it's not that we can prove flat Earth in court right off the bat, but what we can do is create massive reasonable doubt in the globe, to the point where and once that happens, then you're way more pliable to the idea. Now, you may say, look, because I've heard this from people, I'm saying, I don't know if it's flat, but I really know it's not a globe, and which is fine on our side. We've got a number of different ceremonial flags, metaphorical flags for the flat Earth, and that is, there's some people believe in a dome, some people don't believe in a dome, some people believe in other continents, other dimensions, and also this other stuff. But what everybody agrees on is on the other side of that battlefield is only one flag, and that flag is the globe, and that thing is just been turned into Swiss cheese. And so, that's what we put out there. But what I try to, how much time do we have left?
We could still keep going here.
Okay. Well, what I try to tell people is, let me do this one early then, and then we can trail off into other things, which is, look, no matter what what I'm telling you right now, don't believe what I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. I mean, what do I know? I'm an ex-video game junkie that, ended up being a flat earther. But at the same time, do your own research and ask questions. Always ask questions. What is really coming out of this is that people are, there was a YouTube channel, I'm not going to quote him right now, or his name, but he had an interesting quote, and that is, what's happening is people are abandoning blind faith, which is, don't just believe something because somebody told it to you, where you read it in a science book, and you say, well, no, you got to believe some stuff, and okay, fine, I'll give you an easy one, and that is the core of the Earth, which is, you open up any science book, age 9 to 90, and you'll see that wonderful cross-section of the Earth. We've all seen it, where you get that red band and the orange band and the yellow band and the white band. Perfect 1,000-mile thick layers all the way to the center. If you believe mainstream science, you dig a hole, it doesn't go to China, but it takes about 4,000 miles to get to the center of the Earth. And I go, okay, well, what's the deepest hole ever drilled? Is it 1,000? 100 miles? I mean, you remember, 1% down would be 40 miles. So how deep is the deepest hole ever drilled? It's 8 miles.
Yeah, 8 miles, right.
That's a fraction of 1%. So if you've only dug down 8 miles, what the heck are these diagrams showing all these different bands going down to the center of the Earth? How do you know what's down there? They don't. But they're not going to put the disclaimer. And that's one of my beefs with science, which is, you don't put the disclaimer on the artist's drawing. And you're saying, oh, I shouldn't have to put a disclaimer. Well, you do. Because if a 9-year-old sees that drawing, and then he sees it again when he's 11 and when he's 15, by the time he gets out of high school, that drawing's absolute fact. Absolute bona fide fact. And he's willing to fight you to to defend it. Imagine, that, and that goes for the world as well. There's no difference between that argument about the core of the Earth and the actual Earth, which is they tell you that it's a globe. But remember, they're defending their own interests. Science, I'm not saying that science is bad. Look, science has created some wonderful things over the years. Light bulbs, fantastic. Air conditioning, even better. Microwave ovens, more or less, they're convenient. Even though all three of these things, the average person on the street couldn't tell you how any of them worked in any detail. I mean, we've had microwave ovens now for 40 years. Most people don't even know how they work. But when it comes to other things, do not think for a second that science is incorruptible. Do not think for a second they cannot be bribed. They're men like anybody else. Think I'm kidding? How many examples do I have to give you? They're all out there. I'll rapid fire them for you. How many times have scientists and labs pushed products? I'm not talking about the military stuff where they're told to make horrible, horrible things like nerve gas and atomic weapons and napalm. Not that stuff. I'm talking about products that you use. These things are rushed to market for stocks and quarterly reports and investors. And scientists are asked to bend and sometimes break the rules in those cases. Just little things like, I don't know, lead paint, DDT. Look up that. How many homes they spray with DDT? And that was just because they wanted to kill mosquitoes. They almost killed our national bird with DDT.
That's true.
Asbestos, great product. Unless you work in the factory that makes it, then you're dead. And then, of course, the famous one, which is all the scientists that came out that took all the money and said that cigarettes don't do anything bad to you.
There you go. Yeah.
So don't think that science is absolutely incorruptible. Don't think, now, does that mean that all scientists are bad? No, of course not. Just don't. Remember who you're dealing with. Things like Enron happen, right? There's big things. Do you think the AIG thing was just a fluke? No, people knew what was going on.
Let me direct you a different route quickly here.
Sure.
It seems like Mr. Robert Bigelow, as you understand quite well who he is, right, Mark?
Robert Bigelow?
Yes.
Does he go by a different name?
No, I believe he's been coming out on TV. He's been talking a lot about extraterrestrial life.
Okay.
I was just going to ask you, what's your opinion on extraterrestrial life?
I believe that the flat Earth doesn't change that many things, but it does change what we think as whatever's flying around the sky. Now, I will tell you right now, and I've said this many, many times, you want to see what's going on in the sky, and I took this a tip from a London guy, some interview where he goes, get a pair of night vision binoculars, start looking up, and it's amazing what you will see when you take night vision binoculars and get your eyes right and stare up in the sky. But what I think they are they up there? Yes, they are. I think they're from other planets like Mars and Neptune and Pluto and stuff like that. Oh, except Pluto's not a planet anymore.
Yes.
No, I don't. I think they are older versions of us. And that segues into a different thing, which is I don't think that we're the first civilization by a long shot on this planet. And despite what science will tell you, it's like, look, our history only goes back unbroken 5,000 years, and we have a lot of stuff out there that's way, way older. Go to the pyramids. 5,000 years? I don't think so. Sunken cities off Japan. Sunken cities off of India. The Bosnian pyramids. The Bimini Road. What the hell is left of Atlantis or the continent of Mu?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that every one of these civilizations, I think, left remnants. Some of them survived, maybe some of them
Some of them destroyed, perhaps.
Yeah, some of them destroyed. But there's remnants flying around up there, and they still have to follow rules, and they're hanging around here. They don't get to land in Main Street anywhere and take pictures and shake hands and do all that stuff. But they do get to, show up every one and pick off a few people in a rowboat or in the woods or something like that. But they're there. And
they're there. Are they all in then?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely all in. Are we version? The only question is, what version are we?
True.
Are we version 7? Who was version 5? Who was around when Pangea, the supercontinent, was formed? And then, of course, the big question, who was version 1? And then
we are the extraterrestrial.
Yeah. Well, and we look, when the next civilization, I'm not being doom and gloom here. Look, somebody had to move for us to get in here.
Correct.
We're going to have to move for someone else to get in here.
That brings me to my next point about Elon Musk, who wants to go to Mars.
The Mars mission. Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Do you think we're going to go?
No. They're going to kick that can down the road, just like they kicked hydrogen fuel cell cars. If anyone remember those things, we were supposed to have hydrogen fuel cell cars 10 years ago, and what happened was, and the reason there was going to be hydrogen fuel cell instead of something else, was because that was the only only commodity that the oil companies could produce that could be used as fuel other than gas. The oil companies actually own the monopoly on hydrogen gas. But hydrogen gas has a weakness. The biggest one is it doesn't work in a combustion engine in cold weather. Well, how many cars are you going to sell in Minnesota or Wisconsin or Canada? You can sell cars in only warm weather environments, and never ever going to happen. So they just stopped talking about it. They pulled the stations, all the ads are gone, all the car designs are gone, nobody even talks about hydrogen fuel cell cars. Elon Musk talking about, and we got to remember, SpaceX isn't a public company, thank God. And that is,
right.
They're breaking so many rules by saying, because they're saying they're going to go to the moon next year.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
They're going to slingshot 2 tourists around the moon next year. I mean, literally this time next year. Even though they don't have a tested booster rocket, the Falcon Heavy, never been tested. A capsule we've never seen. We don't know who the pilots are. We don't know who the passengers are. How in the world are you going to fake this? And I have said this forever, which is the detection ability of the internet hive mind, and that means the people listening now, is too good. We've got 4K monitors, we've got super high fast internet, and we've got social media, so we can transfer stuff around like that in many different forms. If it goes out there once, it sticks forever. You're not going to be able to scrub it. So you can't fake something like that. You don't even want to try. I joked, but I'm not joking. If the government came to me, this isn't like Joe Rogan taking the bait. If the government came to me and offered me a dump truck full of money and said, we want you, forget about the Mars mission, to fake the moon mission, I'd say, and you have unlimited access to Hollywood talent, special effects guys, I'd say, no, I can't do it. I can't do it because you're leaving it up to the weakest link. Some editor screws something up. Some intern screws something up. All you need is one screw up, and then you get a guy in his underwear in Kansas at 3 o'clock in the morning who finds it and then tweets it to 10,000 of his friends. And that's it. You're blown. You're grim. That's all over. And then it's worse than Apollo. We can't, the ISS footage. The problem isn't post-production. You want to make a movie as beautiful as Gravity? We can do that. But if you try to do anything live or near real time, you're running into the limits of the technology, and you're running into the limits of people.
I see.
And people make mistakes. Look, the first version of Lord of the Rings had a car driving on a highway in the distance.
That's true.
I
remember seeing that online, yeah.
Moviemistakes.com, moviebloopers.com. You can't make a big...
Yes.
You can't do it. So no, they're not going to Mars. They're not going...
Mark, we were talking about mass manipulation and brainwashing and all these lovable topics. That reminds me, Elon Musk is another gentleman who believes in mind control. He also, let me just propose this question. What else is another great way to keep you brainwashed?
Regarding what? Like the globe brainwashing?
To keeping you completely brainwashed. What's a perfect way of doing that? Without social media.
I give up. What do you got?
Well, Elon Musk wants to install a computer in your brain.
Oh, right.
So
right.
What is that?
That's unfortunately that's not going to do. It's never going to. That's also never going to happen. Here's why.
That's when all begins, though, Mark.
Well, it is, but
ideas like this.
It's not a bad idea. Entertainment companies would latch on to it.
They would love it. I could see some good, but I could also see some bad.
Well, yeah. There's certain things that the general public would be really uneasy about, and here's why. Because something like that, it's not just a one-way system. It's 2 ways. Eventually, if you can pump information in, you can extract information. It all comes down to the translation software.
Right.
So, and we've been talking about this, oh good Lord, since Brainstorm, the movie with Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood back in the early 80s. And that was the entire premise of that movie, which was if you could record human memory, then you could also play it back into, not only could you download human memory, but you could also upload human memory.
Correct.
And once memory becomes uploaded, then you're talking about a Dark City scenario, and then it gets spooky because then you're talking Neo, Matrix-y type stuff, and then you're talking about people that thinks they have a full memory. It's kind of like the I hate to use too many movie references here. The Blade Runner, the first Blade Runner thing, where the replicants had full memories. Sean Young's character had full memories, even though she was just built last year. Because how do you know?
This is how it all begins. lens.
Well, again, it's dangerous.
They're already trying to create, I believe, these contact lenses that have internet capability.
Yeah, I know, but remember the Google Glass?
That just failed completely.
Just dropped. And that was just a stupid lens. And I actually saw a guy in a theater wearing one when it first came out.
Weird.
Back when it first came out, and then that was it. He was the only guy I ever saw wearing one. No, in fact, it's really strange. So if that didn't work, contact lenses, that's a little tricky. I don't know. I just don't see. There's certain things. ASICs are a future which people are highly resistant to.
Yeah, we'll see though. I mean, we're at that new age and that new time of existence now. I believe in the next 5 years we're going to see some really wild stuff.
Possibly. I mean, let's put it this way, if the world changes, if we go into a potential golden age where everything starts to break down, yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe. Then we finally get that Jetsons future we've always wanted.
Yes, and Mark, by the way, I believe there's a call here for you. Yes, did you have a question for Mark?
Yes, I do. Hi, Mike. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
You've probably been asked this before, and yes, I'm a skeptic, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Okay.
Is the flat Earth one, is it a longitudinal or latitudinal flat? In other words, horizontal or vertical? If you look at a globe, so to speak, does the edge run down through the middle of the continent, up and down, or sideways? And two, where would the edges be? Where would that distortion in
Sure. For me,
be as far as the ocean? Where would it be on a continent where there would be some anomaly?
Well, that's just it. When it comes to the map, because again, there's only so much we can do because we don't have that much access to the ancient maps, of course. But the closest thing I can point people to is the UN flag. Of course, if you're on a computer right now, you can look up the azimuthal equidistant map, which is one of the USGS projections.
Yes.
But the UN flag is identical to it. And what that basically means is that it's flat. It's flat as a board, and the North Pole is in the center of a circle, and the continents splay outwards, and then the Antarctic coastline is where it normally would be, except that it's much, much bigger. Meaning the Antarctic coastline is in all directions, north, south, east, west. In fact, the compass, the north is actually just the center of the map. But the edge, the Antarctic coastline is not the edge of the world. The Antarctic coastline is just the beginning of Antarctica. How far in it goes, several thousand miles, the best guess we can tell, at the least. And then you run into some sort of outer barrier. I don't think it drops off, drops off into space, because that's just predictive programming, normal programming, where everyone still believes there's space. I believe that it is literally an enclosed system, like a Truman Show, like a terrarium. The only difference is from the 1998 movie with Jim Carrey is that this thing is much, much, much larger and much higher. High enough that the average person would never even notice. Remember, commercial airline flights cap out at 10 miles, spy planes at about 20 miles, give or take. If the roof of this thing is even just 500 miles high, no one would ever be able to figure it out. Is that going to help?
Okay, well, now you sparked something new in me. So
I did not know that.
The Earth is flat.
Yep.
But you've got the magnetosphere around it. What if there is another shield around it that is round, more or less? Is that what we're seeing from? There was another question I was going to ask.
Well, if you're new to this, you're going to have so many questions, to be quite honest. But
I was just going to say, if the ship is sailing, to the edge.
Yes.
Wherever that Truman Show wall is, that doesn't actually hit the Earth, does it?
No. If you went out in a boat right now and you had let's say an icebreaker, eventually you would reach the Antarctic coastline, which, by the way, is highly unusual as it is, because it is about a 250 foot wall of ice straight up, almost all of it. And if you got on top of it, then the altitude starts climbing up right away. Antarctica, for most of it, is about 10 to 14,000 foot plateau of ice that just goes on forever and ever and ever. And then eventually, if you went in and you kept going and kept going and kept going, eventually I think you would reach some sort of Truman Show-ish end, only it wouldn't be made out of plaster and paint. It'd probably be, I don't know, frequency-based, heavy element, harmonic thing. I don't know, but whatever it is, I don't think we can get through it because they were trying to bust through it with atomic weapons.
Wouldn't somebody, I mean, as many people that are on the planet right now, wouldn't somebody found it by now? And
no, that was just it. Once the governments of the Soviet Union and the United States figured it out in the 1950s, they locked it down. They sealed off Antarctica with a treaty, an unbreakable treaty, and nobody goes out there. I mean, honestly, the place just has so many natural negative reinforcements. It screams go away. You're in a boat out there, eventually the water drops below 15 degrees Fahrenheit and you start seeing icebergs. If that doesn't turn you around, you got the ice wall at the...
Then turn around and go to the other edge. I mean,
eventually, it's all the same.
The Earth can be flat, still be a circle, correct?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's no different than... It'd be no different than...
360 degrees.
Yep.
So Antarctica isn't the only, air quote, edge.
Well, as far as we can name it, yes. From what we can tell, there is a land mass that literally just encompasses the entire thing. Now, we call it just Antarctica. You know, the powers that be may have other names for north, south, east, or west. But from what we can tell, it's completely sealed all the way around. If there's channels to get out, nobody public has ever seen them.
But Antarctica isn't the only place on
No, you might be right. Well, that's just it. Whatever's on the outside of this, we can only say that it's Antarctica because that's all we've got on the map. Meaning, if there is more land mass that circles around the outer edge, yeah, again, there may be other names for whatever direction you're going. So if you go east, it may be called sub-Antarctica, or if you go north, it may be the Germans' name, New Schwabenland, or whatever they decide to name their part of it, or west. But whatever it is, it's on all sides. It's encompassing the entire thing.
Okay.
Like the edge of a dinner.
I'm giving you honest questions. I'm not.
Oh no! I got you.
If I got in some sort of a amphibious vehicle,
yes,
and just started going straight, and I would have a compass. It would be a polar compass, not a magnetic compass. It would be a true north compass.
Okay, that's fine.
And eventually use that to make sure I'm going straight.
Right. Ignore GPS. Yeah.
Yes, and my vehicle could go in the water, go in the air for a certain height, and go on land. So I could make sure to make a beeline to the edge.
Got it.
What would be at that edge at any point, not just Antarctica?
If the edge for me is some sort of force barrier, I think it's solid, but at the same time, I think it's electromagnetically charged, some sort of force shield, probably with negative physics. If I was going to make something like this, I would make it with, and by negative physics meaning it's what we do in simulations now, which is you would push back, kind of like with anti-gravity. So as you got closer to it, you would start slowing down and you could never actually reach it. And what that does is it stops people from crashing into it.
Like when in a dream, you're trying to run in a dream and you're just not getting.
There you go. Yeah, it'd be like running into, or for people that don't get the anti-gravity part, it'd be like trying to run into a fan. Run towards a fan that was blowing at you. Right, trying to run into that eventually turned into a hurricane. That eventually you'd never have enough energy to beat it. So and that's done just for safety reasons.
I would need to wear an anti-gravity suit then.
Okay, are you going to try to get to the end here? It's like what's outside? What's outside of the barrier?
Can we see through the barrier? What we look up and see in the sky is actually the sky, or is
no.
A hologram?
I think we are in a giant planetarium, and as you know, planetariums aren't transparent, and we can project just about anything we want on the inside of them.
By the way, Mark, did you watch that TV show Under the Dome?
I did watch a little bit of it. I did, written by Stephen King, and interesting.
It started strong, but then that second short season.
Is it still going?
I think it already died off.
Oh, good. That's probably good. Well, and that's, by the way, one of the reasons why my clues got popular is because somebody wrapped up all the clues and called them Under the Dome documentary. And people thought it was the making of the television show.
I see.
Yeah, go figure.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off. What's outside of this, I don't want to get into it too much. For me, it's an unlimited dimension, an unlimited realm, just because this world is nothing but inescapable, inevitable conflict. And I think that part of me thinks that this is part, I'll use the Bill Hicks line, part amusement park ride, where we deliberately asked to be. We asked to be in here so that we have no excuse. The one of the questions that got you, if you ever ask God, is why you let bad things happen to good people. It's like, well, he's off the hook if you actually paid your money and got on the ride yourself voluntarily. And it's like, what? You asked to be in here.
So we are inside of a sphere.
Inside of a snow globe, for better life.
So that's the round part.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I figured that we were on the holodeck Earth anyway, but...
Well, there you go. Why not? If you want to go further than that, which is interesting because the holodeck on the Enterprise, the Next Generation, which you're talking about, is a perfectly square room.
Yeah.
Or a rectangle room, depending on which one you look at. Because and the reason that is because machines don't like circles. Machines can't make circles. We can make circles organically, but machines can only think in squares and right angles.
Right, well, that's what I thought the grid lines are for. So
exactly.
Okay, well, I'm going to hop off. I was more interested in the edginess rather than
I got you.
Thank you for the call.
Interesting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I didn't know this was a call-in show.
Oh, well, some people can call in. Some people don't want to. It really depends. I think some people get a little intimidated.
Sure.
So they don't always call in. It's quite sad.
I hear you. That's why I tell you, it's like, don't be... Well, you've got a smooth, unintimidating voice.
Well, I think some people are a little afraid of me. I think they know they could trigger me to say horrible things. So
that must be it. Yeah, you have that air about you.
Yeah,
I get that feeling that you snap.
Oh, it happens quite often.
Watch your fingers.
So, Mark, I do want to thank you for being here on the program. I had a blast talking to you about the flat Earth, and of course, I also must tell you, Mark, I was being attacked by a bunch of flat earthers saying I was some sort of shill.
When?
Well, for half a year because I wasn't bringing on anyone who was supporting the flat Earth. So
they're an enthusiastic bunch.
I've been being attacked constantly. So I hope tonight they see that I am open-minded and I'm not trying.
You know what? I'll endorse you right here. And the show is officially called End of Days.
Yes, End of Days, the Michael Decon program.
End of Days, the Michael Decon program. He is not a globalist shill. You can trust him.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Mark. Really.
No worries.
So yes, Mark, go ahead and plug your website and once again any upcoming appearance you may have. The floor is yours.
Okay. The easiest way to find my stuff, I'll just make it easy for you. Go to YouTube. If you want everybody in the community, if you want to see everything that's going on there, just type in Flat Earth into YouTube. Set the filter to upload date if you want the most recent or you want the most popular. Just don't put any filter on it at all. If you want to see my stuff, type in Flat Earth Clues. You will find it. My official website is enclosedworld.com, but everything's linked to everything else. If you want to be on the waiting list for the Flat Earth Conference, or if you want to know if there's going to be any additional tickets, go ahead and type in fe2017.com. And my YouTube channel is called Mark K. Sargent, but don't worry about remembering that name. Just type in Flat Earth Clues, you will find me. It's the YouTube channel is just my name. And as far as any appearances, I don't know if I'm doing anything public before the conference, but if I do, I'll put it on my channel.
Very nice. Well, once again, thanks for being here, and we're going to have to touch base again, Mark. I had a great time.
I had a great time, too. Thank you for having me.
Very cool. Well, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you soon, Mark.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.